You and I haven't chatted for a long time.
Yes.
It's been a while, and I have had quite a few exciting things happen with my company, and I know that you've been traveling and doing exciting things with Plottr, and probably some other things that you kept close to your vest that you want to maybe tell me today or maybe later. I'm excited to catch up. Troy and I are actually going to go and have some dinner this weekend with um, our respective partners, and probably get sloshed and have a good time. But have some good have some good food and try not to like die in the heat that's going on. But
Oh,
oh my gosh! But welcome to Pros Talking Prose. It's been a long time.
now that
Um,
we've already started, yeah,
yeah,
hey, why
well,
not?
well, well, we'll backtrack and
Yeah.
reframe this whole thing. But anyway, so news with us. Let's just talk real quick about what's going on with us. I've got a ton of stuff. I'm hitting my busy season right now with the USMLE season, which is, for those of you who don't know, the United States medical licensing examination is kind of an extensive thing. And for the last 4 years, I've been working with a company in Arizona, or based out of Arizona, that works with um, um, students who are medical students who are wishing to come to the United States and study. And that extensive process requires some writing, and that writing requires an editor when you have English as a second language. So that becomes a headache in and of itself, but it becomes a headache for me because I get thrown a ton of students in a short period of time, and as with all students, they procrastinate, and I have what I call hell week, which usually happens towards the end of September. But that season has already started, and so I'm kind of blown away. But the good news is this year I've expanded my business, and I have four, almost, I can say they're probably full-time editor kind of people working for me right now. So I mean, I'm really excited about that and what that can mean for Edits by Stacey. So we can talk more about that later, Troy. But I
Yeah.
kind of just love that I'm expanding, and what that means for me in terms of like pushing into more publishing, a publishing
Oh,
role.
yeah.
Um, so I'm not gonna ever become a publisher. That's not my role, and that's not my goal, because you
No.
know how I am about pro author. I am pro author 100%, and I know that that role means just as a publisher, sometimes they try to do this cookie cutter thing, and I am not into that. But I do want to make sure that authors always have the first priority. So I love that that's
Yeah.
what's happening with me. So I'm kind of excited. I also noticed that you and I both are sitting on different chairs, and that's exciting whenever we get a
Oh,
new chair.
it is so nice.
It's so
Yeah, it
nice.
is so nice.
It's my
A-
week. It's my
And,
annual perk. I get a new
and
chair.
I got mine for free.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. So the company reached out to me and said, because I tested stuff
No.
for them before, and said, "Do you want to beta test this chair?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." I'm thinking they're going to ask me for some money or whatever to do it. I said, "No, we
No
just want to
way.
review. Once you write an article and review it and stuff like that." And so I got it for free. And so I was like, "How good can this chair be?" It is really good. It is
Yeah.
it's by, what is that standing desk company? It's by a standing desk company. I should look it
Yeah.
up because I should
Um,
advertise for them here. And it's
you
a
should.
C7. Let
Yeah.
me look it up really
I
quick.
looked it up. I was looking at that chair actually, and I was reviewing. Well, I was not reviewing it. I was looking at it as an option. It's an ergonomic chair made by Flexi chair, or
Yeah,
Flexi, yeah,
Plexus
Flexi
Spot.
Spot. There we
Plexus
go.
Spot.
Flexi
Yeah,
Spot.
it's called Plexus Spot. The company is, and they make standing desks that are actually really good. I have a standing
Hmm.
desk, by the way. All
I
that
do
kind of stuff,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you have raise your standing desk and you stand in an ice bath, your productivity goes up 30%. Anyway, that's not
Wow.
true. No, that's
I was
not
gonna say,
true.
nice statistic. I don't like ice baths. I'm
That
not
is
doing that.
not true. That is not true. No, that
But
is like one of those. That's one of those weird flex things. No,
yeah,
no, I have a standing desk. Standing desks are wonderful, actually.
I do
Um,
like my standing desk.
but so anyway, but so they make great standing desks. But I think they have a couple of chairs, but I don't know if this is one
Yeah,
of their
they
first
do.
ones or whatever. But this
No,
one is
no, this is
really good,
they
and part
have
of it
a
is
they have a C7 Lite or something too, like because this one's expensive. I mean, this is a $350 chair on sale,
yeah,
and it just so you know, I think it's always on sale. But anyway, but it looks like an amazing chair.
it's got great lumbar support, and it actually has a foot that kicks out so you can put your feet up. You can
Yeah.
actually recline. But it's mesh. My other one was leather. This one's
Mm,
mesh, which
mhm.
for summer, especially when it gets hot like this, is so much better because
So
it's not
nice.
hot. The
Yeah.
leather one is just hot. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the way that it is.
I
So
I
anyway, I
I
love this one. Super comfortable. And it's designed for a big guy like me, like tall guy
yes.
like me, so it actually fits. So
Yeah.
that's kind of nice. So
That was the appeal for me too, because I'm not a big guy. I'm an average woman height. I'm 5'4" on a good day when I'm sitting up tall. But but that chair that appealed to me because of that. The lumbar sport support, I supposedly, I guess it pushes back out, like it continues to support you even when you lean forward, which I tend to
mhm.
do when I'm like getting later in the day.
Yeah, it does.
I
It's like spring loaded and you can adjust it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And it is, for me, it's exceptionally comfortable.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like, anyway, it's really,
It
really nice.
it looks
And it's
really
got so much
appealing.
adjustment that I'm like, oh, anyway. So super
Yeah.
nice chair. Yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Cool.
Um, but yeah,
Well,
anyway,
that's
so
good
there's
to
my
know.
commercial.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing. When you're an author slash editor slash publisher, I'm telling you, I cannot tell you. I'm in my chair, and we love being entrepreneurs. I love being an entrepreneur. I love running my business, but let's be honest about the statistics here. I'm in my chair probably anywhere from 16 to 18 hours a day. As much as I even use my standing desk and stuff, but if I'm like in a hot heavy project and I have back problems like you would not believe. I've been hit by several cars. I've been in I before the age of 21, I was in 7 car accidents. None of them were my fault, and I'm not exaggerating about
Mm.
that. I'm not. I've been rear-ended twice, a head-on collision once, sideswiped once where it flipped my car around and I ended up on a median, like some crazy stuff. So I have some back issues. Yeah, I don't know where they come from, but I feel
Yeah.
like I should get a
Mystery. Mystery.
yeah, crash
Yeah.
test dummy bumper sticker for my car, except I
Uh,
hate bumper stickers. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my life. And so back issues are plaguing me as I get older. Chiropractor is my best friend, but chairs, I don't skimp on them. I get me a
no.
new chair every year. It is a work expense I splurge on, and I consider it a work thing. Um, so I get a new chair, and that chair that you're sitting in right now was very, very, very appealing. It was on the top of my list. The reason I didn't get it though is because my problem is not lumbar. My problem is shoulder, and so
Oh,
I was
yeah.
talking to my chiropractor, and we were talking about chairs that would work for my migraines and the way that my neck is got issues. He said that I needed something that would relax my shoulders and pull my shoulders down and help me relax that tension. So my best friend, bless her heart, who I call often my business coach because she yells at me a lot. She took me to Staples the other day, and
Sat in
we
every
did
chair.
we sat in every single chair, and
Mhm.
I was kind of blown away how I was so attracted to ergonomic chairs and the way they I don't know. I just immediately I felt like, "Oh, that looks so comfortable." But then I would get in them, and for some reason, like it was just not it was keeping me in this
Hmm.
position, which is great when you're working on your posture, but my problem is this shoulder thing is my problem. So,
Hmm.
I sat in this chair, and it is not a chair that I would have ever in a million years considered, because it was not a chair that I even thought looked comfortable. It's an old man chair. It's a beauty rest of all people. But I sat in this chair and I leaned back and I was like, holy crap. I felt like I was laying in a bed,
Oh
and
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, what is happening to my life right now?" So she sat in one and I sat in one, and we sat in that chair for a good 30 some odd minutes until the attendant came up and said, "Are you guys okay? Do you need anything?" And I was like,
And then
"Well,
you're
we're
like,
fine. We're fine. We're just chatting." But anyway, I walked out with the chair. I was sold. So yeah, I think that this chair is great for me. It is leather, and yes, I do get hot. I have a nice little tiny gorgeous little, here I see it. I can angle it up. I can't really see it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. A nice little ceiling fan
oh
above my
nice.
desk. So I do have a nice little fan, but yeah, you're right. My fanny, especially right now in this heat, it is hot, but I do stand and turn on my, raise my desk up and spend some time
Yeah.
up and down. The Apple Watch is nice for that, right? Because it gets to remind
Yeah.
us to stand up. And then Becca Syme's little,
Yeah. YML. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
YML,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I've been trying to employ that more often. So yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. Our plugs for chairs and
Yeah.
desk health,
Exactly.
right? Yeah,
Well, yeah, my last one was like it was a bed company. It might have been Beauty Rest. It was something like that, but it was a
yeah,
bed company one too, and it actually was really good. But it was past its prime. I
yeah,
was, it had been like 3 years, and like I don't spend quite that much time in my chair, but I spend close.
yeah.
So
It's just,
um,
I mean, it's time.
yeah, you just have to have something that's good. You just have
It's
to have
like
something that's good,
shoes.
and yet you replace them at least every couple years because
Hmm.
because of how much you use them. So I would say,
Right.
it's not typical. For if you're an average person who spends a couple hours a day writing in your chair, you
Yeah,
don't need one every
you
year.
don't need one.
But you do need a good chair, and one that
Hmm.
has like mine. The armrests are like in the
Oh
perfect
yeah,
spot. That helps me with my keyboard, all that kind of stuff. Some people don't like armrests at all. Whatever works for you, but I mean, you got to have a good chair.
you got
Got
to
to have
have
a
a
good
good
chair.
chair. Got to have a
Spend
good
money
chair.
on a good chair. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
there we go. Our plug for chairs. Woohoo! Moving on.
yeah.
So anyway, so what's going on with you? Tell me about your traveling. What have you been doing? I'm
So
so excited.
we traveled for a month in an RV and didn't
Hmm.
kill each other. So we say this counts as
Okay,
adding an additional 6 months onto our relationship because
good.
Um, but it was an adventure. But it was we found out it was much too rushed. But we saw
Mhm.
grandkids. We literally went from Boise to Texas, from Texas to North Dakota, and then from North Dakota, two different locations in North Dakota, and then back to here. So we did
Wow.
right around 5,000 miles,
In a
pulling a
month?
trailer. Yeah, in a month.
That seems,
Uh,
yeah. So is that what you mean by rushed? Is it just felt like you did too many miles in a short period of
Well, and
time?
we had family things, and we had one repair we had to do in Albuquerque, and so we ended up there a couple days because, of course,
Right.
the issue happened on a Saturday. Well, nobody's open, I
Typical.
mean,
Typical.
so you wait till Monday to get things fixed, then things actually get fixed on Tuesday, then you leave on Wednesday, that type of thing,
Right.
which was fine because Holly has friends in Albuquerque, and so we were able to hang out. We got a nice KOA campground there and basked in the lovely pool, the only pool of any campground we had that was actually warm the entire
Oh,
time. The rest of them were supposed to be heated, but
they were
a couple of them were
freezing.
not, except for one that was heated, but we had zero time to get in it. We were like, that water is really nice. We got to go. Anyway, so that was part of the part of it was that like we went to Mount Rushmore, but we had like very limited time to like be at Mount Rushmore, and then we had to
Um,
go. So, but I
that's too
worked
funny.
along the way, so I figured out how to do internet and how to do working in an RV and how to make all that stuff work. So I taught classes along the way, worked along the way.
Yep.
But if we were going to do that again, we would do things a little bit differently, but it was actually really great. But as soon as I got back, of course, I just have tons of stuff going on with Plottr. I have tons of classes
Yep.
that I'm teaching, tons of other stuff that's happening, and so there's just a lot going on with a lot of writing projects that I need to finish up, stuff like that. So it's been pretty exciting stuff.
That's pretty
Super
exciting.
busy, and then there's all this wacky stuff happening in the indie world, and everybody messages me when stuff happens because they want to know,
Yeah, what you know. Yeah.
what do you
Like,
know? What's
what do you know,
happening? What's
Troy?
going on?
I know. I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm guilty
Um,
of that too.
so,
I'm
oh
guilty of
yeah,
that
I mean
too.
that's fine. I stay plugged in, obviously on purpose because it's part of my job. But it is, it's just one of those things that it's like, oh man, yeah, I take time out to talk to people and stuff like that. But
Right.
and then my partner in crime at Plotter and I, CJ and I,
CJ.
we decided. So we have an outlining workshop this weekend,
Right.
and we decided we're going to outline a book during that workshop to show people how to outline a book, and then we're going to write it together.
I like
Well,
it.
we decided this on Monday, and we were trying to have a pre-order up by tomorrow.
I can't believe you guys
So,
tried that. Um,
so we're gonna make it. We are gonna make it, I think.
okay. Okay.
But anyway, so we're gonna make it. We're gonna set that out for like 6 months out before that book comes out. But we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it happen.
That's
Um,
exciting. Can I
so
sign up for this workshop? How do people sign up for this
yeah,
workshop
you
that
can
you're
sign
doing?
up for this workshop. I know it's last minute, but it's at all
Um,
right. I'll drop the link in the chat here. Um,
okay. Okay, cool. Yes,
and you
drop the
can
link for
translate on the
me.
YouTube.
Cool.
But it's basically if you go to the Plotter website, go to the events page, it'll be there. Um,
Okay, cool. Yeah, here it is. Okay, yeah,
yeah,
I'll put it in the
in the
description here.
show
Yeah.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Um,
cool.
but yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Um,
that'll be exciting.
and if you can't make it live because it's last minute, there are replays, of course. Because it's going to be kind of a long one. We go through it's about 3 hours. We're going to go through a session where we talk about basically how to outline, and then we're just going to do it. We're just going to
Yeah.
show you how to do it, and we're going to do it live. Um,
Exciting. This is kind
so
of fun.
you know, yeah,
Is it
it's
well, how much is this? Is this gonna be a charge?
it's a
Yeah,
pay what you
99.
can.
Okay,
It's a pay
cool.
what you can.
Started from
10 bucks
9.99.
is the minimum. Yeah, if you
Cool.
want to pay more, you're welcome to pay more. But we're
Awesome.
doing a lot of plotter events that way to make them as accessible as possible to people.
I love
We'd
it. I
rather
love
have
it.
more people that pay less than to try to make a
Love it.
bunch of money off a single event. That's just
Love
our
it.
philosophy, and so that's what we're doing.
That's what I love
Um,
about Cameron and Plotter in general. It's very pro author. It's very let's get you guys the tools that you guys need to be better writers, and I love it so much. I
yep,
love that so much.
absolutely,
Um
absolutely.
so
But
yeah.
anyway, so that's what's happening with Plotter. There's just a lot going on, and like I say,
Mhm.
then there's just a lot going on in the indie world that's uh,
Yeah.
a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Yesterday, for some
Let's
reason, the indie world went nuts.
So I did some research this morning. You mentioned Ream, and I
hmm
cannot find anything about Ream other than the normal, like, yeah, subscription service, try us out. So what's going on with Ream?
So, so what's going on with Ream is Michael Evans, who is the guy that created it, really. And he's like, I know him. I've met him a few times. So I messaged him yesterday. So I woke up yesterday and I got an email that said Michael Evans is no longer the CEO of Ream. And I went, what? Like,
Are
that
do you
doesn't seem to make sense.
are you friends with him? Or do you know
Yeah.
him?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm friends with him on Facebook. I would say we're acquaintances, not necessarily friends, but like
Acquaintances.
we know
Right.
each other.
Right.
And so I wake up and I'm like, Michael Evans no longer the CEO of Ream. Like, what in the world is happening? Like, this is his company. Like, he started it. Like, what is even going on? Um, but anyway, so then he posted a message on social media about it. Basically, his co-founders had basically kicked him out, kicked him off the board. And so he thought when they kicked him off the board, kicked him out as CEO, that they would just keep him on in some other role, but they did not.
It
They
just got rid
just
of them altogether.
they cut off his access to anything Ream, cut off all that stuff, and just totally booted him out the door. So at first I'm like, okay, something must have happened in the background, but I can't imagine this guy's I mean, he's a young guy going to college. He started this when he was 15. He's going through a divorce right now, basically because he married this gal, but then, he's going to college and working all his hours on this Ream thing. So he's going through a divorce right now already. And then his co founders basically boot him out of his dream job.
I
So
wonder
I'm like,
I wonder if it's strategic because of the divorce that they're kicking him out so that the wife can't take.
no, 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 no. It's not that.
You don't think it's
I
that?
wish it. No, I wish it was. I know for a fact it's not that.
Mm,
But
that's sad.
I think, I mean, he's been working on this ever since they came in on the company. He's been working the last 3 years with no salary. He
Oh,
just all he does is get shares of stock. So he owns 17% of the company. Still, like,
yeah.
but
I mean, but still, wow.
but that's
Like,
not a controlling interest. But he hasn't been taking a single dime of salary because it hasn't made. The thing is that it isn't
it
making
doesn't
money.
make
It's like any
money, right?
startup. It hasn't made money yet. So, but so we don't know what happened inside, and he's likely not going to tell us. But what was very telling was that he put up a kind of a goodbye post on social media to the community and stuff like that. I mean, obviously there were hundreds of responses, but the co-founder and her husband left some nasty remarks on his post. Now they deleted them later, but people screenshotted them, of course, because this is,
Right.
we live in the era we live in. Um, and so there's obviously some bad blood, some kind of bitter thing, some kind of backstabbing thing happening. I don't know. But it's just sickening because he is one of those guys that he's like me. Like, what he really wants to do is help writers. Like,
Right.
the money is something we need, yeah, because we have to
Right.
live and, all that kind of stuff. But that's not why we do it, right? And obviously, that's not why he was doing it. So he's I don't know how he is to work with. I don't know what the dynamics of the company are, but it seems like his co-founders were ready to move in a different direction and he didn't want to move that way. And
Yeah.
so but I have a suspicion that enough people in the indie author community know him, have ideas. I have ideas that he could do,
Mhm.
things like that. So I think enough people know him in the indie community and stuff like that that he'll land on his feet. He'll do something else, and I don't know that Ream will survive. He was the face of Ream, and a lot of the commenters in the on his post are leaving Ream because he's no longer there. Um, so
Well, it
you know,
hasn't hit the new it hasn't hit the news yet. So, I mean, this is probably all
no,
just social media stuff, but
yeah, it's not.
that's
It's not news. The thing
that's
is, it's such a small company. It's not gonna be news.
yeah, but still, I
You
mean,
know.
it is interesting that that happened. It's interesting. I don't know. The like you said, the implications and the repercussions of something like this is probably not going to be a huge ripple, but it's still one of those things where I mean, we're just speculating here, but it could be something that could lead to bigger, better things. The end of
It
Ream.
could. Well,
Um,
because it was a very up and coming tool and it was very promising.
right.
I
It was
mean,
like
his vision for it was pretty
and
amazing.
this was going to be a competitor for Kindle, right? Like this was going
Well,
to be
kind of a competitor for Kindle Vella and
Kindle. That's what I
subscription
mean.
type services, but it was going to be
Right.
like another subscription service that
So another like
people could
Scribed
use,
or
but
something like that.
kind of a combo of like Patreon, Vella, that type of thing. He had a really interesting model. Um, and I was fascinated by the idea. I thought it would work really well. I was
Yeah,
excited to see where it went.
I remember you
And
bringing it up a couple times, so
yeah, and now that's kind of irrelevant. So,
yeah.
unfortunately, I may know some parts of the story, but later on, but we will probably never know the full extent of the story, especially since there's both sides of the story, and the story his co-founders are telling is one that's pretty, in my mind, is pretty toxic and bitter. So I'm like, well, I don't know what happened there, but
That's too bad. I
I
hate
don't know that that'll survive, and that's not a good thing for it's never a good thing for the indie author community when something like that dies. That was an up and coming thing that, and it may not die. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but because he was so much the face of the company, in my mind, I don't think I would have ever left. I would have ever pushed him all the way out. I would have said, "Hey, why don't you just be our spokesman? Take a role like that." If he wasn't a good CEO, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's too
yeah,
bad. That's really too bad.
when
I hate to hear when people like dissolve relationships like that when they're not necessarily, like you said, when they're not necessarily something that can be salvaged. Um, and yeah,
yeah,
when there's like this toxic like shift. I don't know, it's sad. Sad to me. I hate hearing
yeah,
about that kind of stuff, but I mean, I know it
yeah,
happens. I mean, we all get divorced sometimes from bad
yeah,
people in our lives, you know. It
yeah,
has to happen sometimes. But what a horrible thing. Oh, poo. Okay, well,
yeah,
Troy, let's go ahead and I'm going to have you recap kind of the what happened really fast, and then we'll just kind of throw our little 2 cents in and go
yeah.
from there.
So I'll recap, and what I will say is that writers' organizations in general are struggling because they're struggling to attract young people because they're struggling to attract people with the why. Why should I join this group? Now,
Right.
there are some groups that are not struggling, that are doing really, really well, right?
Right.
And that's so. Anyway, all that being said, essentially, the background of romance writers was when romance writers started, a bunch of romance writers joined, and they had a membership of up to 10,000 people,
Right.
10,000 writers. Well, the important thing about that as writers is that they had influence on publishers.
Yes, they
Publishers
did.
were afraid of Romance Writers of America.
Right.
If they did something contract wise, something like that, that was out of line, especially related to romance writers, RWA, the leadership would call up that publisher and say, "We're going to tell our members to boycott you, to not write for you, all this other stuff." And those publishers would be afraid because some of
Right.
the top names in romance were in that group, right?
Right.
So they had a lot of sway, they had a lot of pull. It was a great lobbying organization for writers in general to get publishers to wake up and pay attention to the author,
But that
right?
membership has dwindled down to
Yes,
3,000.
2000. So here's
Two.
what happened.
Oh, okay.
So a part of it was the controversy,
Right.
was the whole controversy around diversity, equity, inclusion, and that happened a lot when the initial leadership stepped down and new leadership took over. This is a common problem with writer organizations, is that some people don't follow the new leadership, right? And that's fine. You expect certain amount of shakeup, but because there were also some issues in their forums, some issues with some of the things that some of the board members said, things like that, that caused people to kind of do this what I call the cancel culture thing,
Mm,
and cancel Romance Writers of America. We don't want to be a part of that anymore. We're not
right.
happy about that,
Right.
right? So their numbers dwindled down. Then, of course, COVID hit too. That hit everybody's organization numbers because the reason a lot of times people join an organization is they can go to conferences. I mean, that's why I'm a member of NINC. I get to go to their conference. I get to do all kinds of stuff there, right?
Right.
So, um, but when there's no conferences to go to and no events to go to, well, that hurts the organization. Then a
Hmm.
lot of the local chapters of the romance writers, their membership dwindled as well for the same reason. They weren't having in-person events. Some of them broke off from romance writers and became independent groups because they didn't want to be associated with Romance Writers of America, so they still survived, all that kind of stuff. So essentially, the Romance Writers of America came to a point where they had to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy because they had made commitments to hotels and places like that for conferences. conference venues, conference locations, things like that, paid huge deposits for them, and they could not fulfill the obligations of those
For the
contracts
numbers,
because they didn't have enough.
they owed like $3
The
million.
numbers,
It was
the
a
numbers
it
just
was a
didn't work.
it was
Hmm.
huge. It was like $3 million, and they were like, they just couldn't afford it. The membership didn't support that kind of income or that number. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw that on a very,
So
very small scale and Idaho Writers Guild, but yeah,
yeah.
it's a real
So the
thing.
danger, and that's the dangers of scheduling conferences way out. The advantages is you have venues, you have things settled, it
Mhm.
makes it easier. The issue is like Nick is having a similar issue. A lot of people would like to see them move their conferences in Florida. A lot of people would like to see them move the conference out of Florida because of some of the political atmosphere in Florida.
Right.
Well, we're in a contract in Florida until 2025 for the conferences, so we
Right.
cannot move the conferences outside of Florida. Even if we did, that's a huge undertaking. You know what I mean? So
Right.
there's some new leadership in NINC too as well. That's a little bit different. So things are changing there. But I mean, this is some of the people just like, I'm not coming to the conference. I'm like, you're not supporting Florida, you're supporting NINC. But hey, we're not going to argue about that. You know,
Right.
we're under contract. Like you can't help it. However, that does if something happens. Like the hotel that we're at is like the last 2 years. It's been in the path of a hurricane and hurricane season towards the end of the conference. Well, I happen to be staying another week for another conference in the same city this year, so I'm hoping that I can come home when I'm done with those, and I don't
You'll
have to
be
move to
fine.
Florida. I don't
I've
have to
lived
move to
through
Florida.
it. Like, I go to Florida and I've gone through 2 hurricanes through there, and you get home eventually. I'm here.
You
I
get
made
home
it home.
eventually. You get home eventually. That's what I'm worried
Eventually
about.
eventually
But
you make
anyway,
it home.
no, but it's all fine. But you know what I mean? I mean, there's just those concerns that people have,
Right.
which are legitimate concerns. That's
Right.
fine.
Right.
But anyway, so organizations deal with this all the time. And so it's easy for writers, and this is part of what's happened the last couple of days too, and I'll get to that in a second, is that
Right.
writers are criticizing people that they have put on a pedestal for whatever reason, or criticizing organizations. And sometimes they just want to stop them and say, what are you doing for other writers? It's a positive thing that gives you the right to say anything
Right.
about anyone else who's doing positive things for writers. There, along with the Ream thing yesterday, there were a couple people that started bashing Brian Cohen and Dave Chesson online in writers groups, and I'm like, what
Dave
in the world is
Chesson.
happening? Yeah, publisher Rocket Dude.
I know who Dave Chesson is. I'm like, why in the
Yeah,
world, why drag him into the fight? Like, what the heck is going on?
yeah. It was like there's like three separate things going on yesterday, and I'm like, did the indie community just wake up on the wrong side of the bed and decide to pick on some people,
Or
or
yeah,
what
are there,
happened?
like, were there some
Because
trolls that just like felt like they hadn't had enough controversy for the year yet, and so they felt like they
I
had
don't
to just,
know. It's
wow.
people who write drama, creating drama for no reason. And the
I
issue
mean,
is they
crazy.
are not people who care about writers and who are putting their livelihood and their lives on the line to help writers. People don't understand like this is
Okay,
a lifestyle and none of us are rich. None of us are making
no,
millions.
no.
It doesn't work that way, and we're literally putting our livelihood and our lives into this. This is a lifestyle. This is not a job. This is a
Can,
lifestyle. This is
can I
what I do,
just,
and I'm into everything. And so offering that criticism, if you're not doing something positive for writers, for me is like get out. Just get out of the way. Anyway,
I have to jump on this for just a second. I'm going to take a different perspective because I have a business background, just so everybody understands this. I'm coming from not just the writing world. This is me, Stacey. This is the business girl. Um let's talk about business. I People who bash on capitalism and business owners in general, literally, they get on my, I literally want to bop them in the nose because I want to, I want to express the amount of work that goes into running a business. Is it is not what you, if you have never done it, don't knock it because you don't know what you're talking about. um like, okay, so first of all, when you start a business, anybody starts a business, anybody, this is any business, we're talking Rockefeller, guys. I'm going to go back, like any person who starts a business, usually what they're doing is they see a problem, they see a need, and they want to fulfill that need. Okay, now when people get huge, sometimes their heads get bigger than their, than the goal.
Yeah.
And that tends to happen. But for the most part, the majority, and I'm gonna throw a statistic out there that's bull crap, but it's probably like around 80% of business owners, if they're staying involved in their business, not, they are, their heart, soul, and body, mind, everything goes into that business, and that business becomes their, it's not just about their livelihood, it becomes their passion, their love, it's part of their family gets involved, their friends get involved. I mean, it's like it envelops every waking minute of a business owner.
Mhm.
And so the reason I bring this up is because that passion, it fuels our reason for living. It fuels our reason for getting up at 6 in the morning to sit in the damn chair for 18 hours and work the business. And so for Troy and I, my business, I know Troy, and I know Troy well enough to know that the reason he does what he does is because he's passionate about authors. He wants to make sure that they can do provide a good product to their readers, and he does what he can to make sure that that happens. um I'm the same way. My goal is very similar. My goal is to help authors get through that publishing process without having to give up because it's so overwhelming. I help them navigate that world and find the best way that's for them. And everything that I do is towards that. It works towards that for my clients. Um, and I know Dave Chesson is the same way. He wants to make sure that clients, that the people sign up with Publisher Rocket and can be discovered. Their books can be found. I mean, like in the bottom of that 4 million book published pile. He wants to make sure that you can find your book. And I know Cameron, he started Plottr so that people can write a good story, spin a good yarn, and like appeal to the client, appeal to the readers that are buying your books. Like these people, they wake and they live and they breathe books and the book industry. And I know this expands beyond that, because I find Simon Sinek and I follow him, and he works in a more corporate world. But for the most part, when you're working with corporations, especially small corporations, we as business owners are creating an entity that fulfills a need. We see a need and we
Mhm.
want to fulfill that need. We want to fill that need. And it's not nine like and like I said, I'm almost 100% sure of this because I haven't met one business starter that was actually fueled by money. It actually,
Mhm.
I mean, money is kind of a byproduct, but most of us are just seeing something that we want to help people with. And
Mhm.
so when you go out there and you are one of these consumers that maybe utilizes a company for whatever reason, say that you use Publisher Rocket, or say that you use, and maybe you disagree with that person on a personal level. I know a lot of people, Elon Musk gets under your craw. I mean, that's fine. Elon Musk is an annoying human. He's on the autistic scale. And honestly, I don't think I could stand being in the room with the guy either. But, he feels a need. Like, if I get out there in the world, I think I would want some Starlink in my back pocket. I like my internet. So, I mean, he
Mhm.
feels a need, guys. Trump, yeah, he's kind of an ass. But he's got some great hotels. And honestly, if I were gonna stay in a hotel, I might want to pick a Trump hotel, man. He's got clean hotels. I don't know. These people fill a need. So, I mean, do I agree with him personally? Maybe not. But my point is that when you get on the internet and you start spouting your mouth, and you really are just doing it because you're being a jerk and you have no clue what you're talking about, I don't know. Maybe maybe take a step back and breathe a minute, because you don't really understand the full picture. And when you're just attacking somebody's character because you don't agree with them, or because they're going through a hard time, and it, for whatever reason, it doesn't fit in your little world. I don't know. This is one of the hardest things for
Yeah.
all of us to do, but I know you're the center of your world, but you're not the center of the person sitting next to you's world. You're not the main character and their story. They are.
Here's the thing about that whole thing is that it's just like you learned when you were younger. If you don't have something nice to say, then maybe
Don't
just don't say it,
don't say
especially
it.
on social media. Because the thing is, 90% of the time, that's something you wouldn't say to that person's face. You wouldn't walk
Ever.
up and say that to them at a conference or somewhere like that. Second of all, um, it's exactly like you say. There are some people that are in it for the money.
Right.
I know that those people exist. I don't hang out with them because I
Right.
don't like them, right? But there are people that do that. But these are not those people.
These
Now,
are not these people.
even if they were those people, you have to look at the outcome of what they have done has caused significant advances for the indie community. But to me, it's not just them. It's not about them. What it's about is
No.
about we as indie authors and as authors in general are colleagues, not competition. And
Right.
it's the same thing with companies that provide services to authors. Plottr is not in competition with anyone. There are other software out there that does similar things to what we do. That is awesome. I was at a webinar once and people were like, "Will you talk about alternatives to Plottr?" And I'm like, "Yes." They're like, "What? You're the Plottr guy. You work for Plottr." I'm like, "So? Is Plottr the answer for everyone?" If I start saying that my software and the things that I do are the answer for everyone, immediately I know I'm wrong. Because, first of all, that is almost an immoral act to try to impose what I do on someone else. Okay. And
Mhm.
that's getting into another territory that I'm not going to go into because it's not the topic we're dealing with here.
Right.
However, but you trying to conform someone else to your way of doing things is an immoral act.
Right.
Okay. Period. End of story. You can argue with me if you want. Doesn't matter. However, and so w- if you if your idea of something is the only idea that you can stomach, that you can fathom, and there are people that are like that. Like, and I mean, I've been around some of them. I don't hang out with them regularly
Mhm.
because it doesn't work in the long run. It's not going to work in the long run. So maybe before you start bashing someone, think about what would happen if somebody started doing that to you. You're an author and somebody started just bashing your books or bashing you personally and so people wouldn't read your books. How would you feel about that? How would that impact your life? How would that impact what you do? So before you open your mouth, think about what would happen if somebody else did the exact same thing to you. Because probably, if you're human, somebody might have a reason to do that to you that could be legitimate, right? Maybe you've
Right.
done something wrong. I mean, I have,
I don't
right?
know.
So anyway, I'm like, the whole thing is for me is don't do it. Like, leave it alone. If we're in this industry, if you have a legitimate criticism of one of those guys, you approach them, tell them your criticism, tell them what you think they're doing wrong, and allow them an opportunity to respond to that.
Right.
That's whatever the case may be.
And
Let's
the other
be
side
Yeah,
the
let's
other
be
side of this
amicable.
coin, yeah, let's be
Yeah,
amicable. But like the other side of this coin, and you and I have said this, I know I've heard you say it. We say it in multiple different ways, but honestly, if you don't like the book, don't buy it. If you don't like the
yeah,
product, don't buy it. I mean,
yeah.
it doesn't mean you have to like shun that book for everybody out there. It's like you said, your views are not the same as everybody's views. You are the main character in your story, but you're not the main character in mine. I am.
hmm Well, and like you were talking about Elon Musk, here's the thing: I don't have to own a Tesla
I don't.
to acknowledge the fact that what the man did changed the EV
Changed.
industry entirely.
Exactly.
Right now, whether I like that or not, whether I buy his product or another EV, or I hate EVs and I'm never going to buy one, whatever the case may be, I have to acknowledge that what he did changed an industry.
I hate the
What?
Cybertruck, but I don't I'm not going to go out there and bash the man. Like, people
Yeah.
buy that thing. Okay.
Don't don't buy one. Don't buy
I
one if
won't
you
buy
don't like
one.
it.
Right.
You know,
Exactly. I
I
mean,
mean, there's
come
you have
on.
choices. There's opportunities. You have choices. And the easiest choice is just to be quiet. And sometimes that's the best choice. Now, I'm not saying you should never speak up if you're mistreated
Oh,
as a customer or something
right.
like that. But you should go through channels first.
Right.
Like generally, before I speak up on social media or anything, even about like an airline company or whatever, I will go through their customer service channels and try to give them a chance to make it right. Now,
Exactly.
if they don't, am I going to take that public? Oh, sure,
Maybe.
you betcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe,
Maybe.
because I may find a way to use my influence to get them to change their minds about how they're going to treat me as a customer. However, most of the time I don't do that. I'm
You know
just the
what?
quiet person that never comes back. I'll just
Yeah,
never go back.
that's me too. And I just tell my friends, "Oh yeah, I don't use them."
Yeah.
"Oh yeah,
And
I don't."
like in the indie author world, like if I just say I don't use that tool and here's my reasons for it, you may still choose to use that tool,
Right.
right?
Right.
And there are people in the indie world who are like they do different services and sometimes they don't get along, and because they own different companies that do the same thing, and I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like you
Yeah,
don't have to do it anyway.
it's it
But
doesn't have
yeah,
to be, you don't have to take everything so personal.
well,
That's the
yeah,
other
that's
thing. I think it's a trend that everybody has to be offended or upset, or like there has to be something like that we have to
yeah,
be angsty about. And I'm just like,
yeah,
can we just, I mean, really, is it, it should be, oh, I mean, our blood pressures, the reason Americans die of heart disease. I mean, come on, people,
well, and here's
chillax.
here's the thing is we haven't learned how to disagree. And here's the thing I'm going to say that's related to the author industry right now is the author industry is going through some huge changes. This is probably
Huge
the biggest
shifts.
shakeup. This is probably the biggest shakeup since the whole ebook revolution in the
Right.
mid 2000s, right?
Right.
This is probably
It's,
the biggest shakeup. And I was
I'm
around for
gonna
that
call
too.
it I'm gonna call it like the 7-year itch, because we're like in that golden age. It kind of feels like we're having a 7-year itch in a marriage.
Yeah. We're actually entering into what I will say is going to be the golden age of publishing. It's going to be
Yeah.
the best era of publishing there has ever been.
But it's growing
However,
pains. It has to go through a
there's
change.
some
It has to
growing
go.
pains. There's some
Yep.
growing pains and some transformation happening right now. If you become a toxic individual in this kind of space in the indie world right now, you will miss out on one of the
hmm
greatest opportunities that has ever been offered to authors.
I agree. I
So if
agree.
that's where the direction you want to go, enjoy, my friend. But this is a solitary enough occupation and an occupation that requires just an incredible amount of work and study and all of those things that if that's what you want to do, just understand you may be alone in what you're trying to do. You may alienate other people in a way that you don't want to alienate them, and they may never tell you. They may just stop hanging out with you,
Yeah.
stop being around you because of your toxic personality. So there's no reason to attack other people. If things are changing in the industry and you're like, well, this person isn't changing with it, or this person, whatever, that's not your problem. Okay.
Oh, oh my
Your,
gosh.
it's not you. It
My
doesn't
favorite
matter.
thing, if it doesn't concern you, I told my mother this the other day. I've been telling my kids this. If it's something you can't control and it doesn't concern you, and it's something that you can't you can't do anything about, but it really isn't going to affect you, put it in a little box in your brain that's labeled not my problem, and just tuck it away. Just put it
Yep.
away, let the cobwebs grow, because it doesn't matter. It's not worth
Hmm.
these mean 11s that I get when I go like this. It's not worth this. It's not worth that
Yeah.
at all. It's not worth it. Okay, so speaking of weird, toxic, bringing up the past, oh my gosh, can we just stop this mess? Neil Gaiman and his
Oh,
little sex scandal. I got so pissed when I read that. I got so pissed when I read that. I'm not sure if Neil Gaiman is a womanizer. And honestly, I don't give a crap because that's his bedroom and I don't care. I don't want to get in somebody else's bedroom. I'm not interested. That's one of the reasons why I stay out of the LGBTQ fight. That's a bedroom fight and I'm not in the mood. I don't even care about what you do with your world and your little sex organs. I don't care. You have a foot fetish, that's good on you. That's one of the reasons also I don't at all ever edit romance. I can't because I'm like, I don't want to know about your fetish. I really don't. I have my own little thing, and I keep that in my bedroom. But with Neil Gaiman, first of all, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of his writing style, what he's contributed to literature in my time. Um, and he has a unique voice that in my eyes, he has become as epic as Edgar Allan Poe and um, Hemingway in the world of literature for me. I'm a huge fan of the man. Um, Now, when it comes to his bedroom scandal, um, here's what I have to say about this, and this is as a woman, because I have a right to say this. I'm a woman. I have the boobs and I have the vagina, so I'm allowed to say this. I was born with them. I have not changed them or altered them or in any way decided to reject them either, except that I reject the childbearing thing. I'm done with that. Um, let's I can say this as a woman. There are men out there that are leches. There are men out there that have, and I call them dirty old men. And I have dealt with these men from the time I was a child because I've seen them, I've experienced them. They're in my family. Um, like they're around. And when I get around them, it's an ick and I remove myself immediately. I have been fortunate to not been so impacted by these men that they have harmed me beyond repair. Okay. That being said, when I come into contact with men who I am attracted to, and I have like had those relationships with those men in the past and maybe got myself into some situations where I kind of look back and go, and I put it in that box of like not my problem anymore. Um, that that is not something I like to dredge up. And I'm certainly not going to call the guy 20 to 30 years later and say, "Hey man, you mistreated me." Um and I feel like there's a lot of women out there right now doing this shit. And I hate to say the word, but it is shit to me. And it really does kind of infuriate me because there are women out there that are mistreated. There are women out there that are victimized. There are women out there that are abused. And when that happens, you know what I've noticed about all of them? None of them like to talk about it. So it's kind of interesting to me that these women are coming out and publicly going, I want money. And that's what it looks like to me. And I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I can be completely wrong. I haven't met these women, but it feels very interesting that it's coming out now.
This is one of those things that it's really a hard topic. I can't tell someone else that they can't process trauma 20
No,
years later.
because and trauma is
Right.
different for everybody, right?
Right.
Right.
So I don't know the experience. Here's the thing that I do know is that many authors have a past. Many authors are not always the greatest people as far as their individual, like who they are.
I would say
Like,
people.
you know, Hemingway was, I mean, he's
He
married a
was a
bunch of times.
creep.
He was, yeah, he was just kind of a, and I mean, you know, okay. It doesn't take away from the work, and so there becomes a
Right.
certain point where you have to separate the work from the person.
From the
You know,
person.
early Stephen King was an alcoholic and not a great guy
Right.
necessarily. Kind of cleaned his act up, changed, right? Now some
Right.
people disagree with his politics. I'm like, who cares?
Who
When did
cares?
you when did you start turning to authors and athletes and
And
musicians
actors,
to figure out your politics? I'm like,
right?
that's not the right move anyway. But whatever the
Right.
case may be, right? So, but people have these things that they do. They also put people on pedestals that they should not put on pedestals.
Right.
Um,
I agree with
and
that one too.
so, like, it's similar to the whole Mark Dawson controversy that happened over the last
Right.
couple of years. And really, he has disappeared from the public eye in a large part because of it. Now, maybe that is rightfully so. Some of the things that he did, some of the plagiarism things that he did, are definitely anti-author, not someone who was acting in the author's best interest, that type
Right.
of thing, acting in his own best interest. Okay, I get that, right? I understand that, and that situation is one that's completely different,
Right.
right? But at the same time, you know, the guy did some great things for authors
Right.
before all that happened,
Right.
right? So maybe I don't want to listen to him anymore,
Right.
but maybe some of his stuff from the past is actually still pretty decent advice. You know what I mean?
So,
But it's hard. It's hard for us. This is the thing with the whole cancel culture thing that's happening, is that when someone personally does something that upsets us, we don't separate it from the work that they're doing. We cancel that person from our lives instead. We encourage other people to do the same thing. And I'm not saying that that's always wrong, but there are times when it's wrong. And
right.
it's it's hard to know what somebody else's circumstances are,
Are.
and to say, okay, this is, so I'm not going to discount what those women have said,
No.
nothing
No.
like that. But I'm just going to say that I don't think that means that we should throw, if you have a bunch of signed Neil Gaiman books, that you should throw them out,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's not what that means. Now, maybe you have made the decision that because of what you've learned about him, you don't want to read any of his writing going forward, or you don't want to support him, or you don't want to go to his book signings, or
Again,
watch shows that were made by him, whatever. That's fine. That's a decision
that's
that you make. But when the moment that cancel culture crosses the line as a moral act is when you start to where you try to force other people to
other
comply to the
people.
way you are going to respond to this particular thing. Okay.
Exactly.
So the moment that I say, I'm not going to support Neil Gaiman anymore, and I'm not going to watch his stuff and read his books anymore, that is my personal decision. When I say, Stacey, I see some Neil Gaiman books on the shelf behind you.
Yep, I have a few.
If you're going to have those books on your shelf, I'm not going to refer any more editing clients to you.
Okay.
I'm trying to force you through coercion, through some kind of control that I have over you, to
Right.
comply to my point of view. First of all, I'm being controlling. I'm being just as bad as anything that Neil Gaiman did
Right.
by trying to do that.
Right.
Right. Second of
Exactly.
all, that itself is an immoral act. And we
Right.
need to understand that us trying to control someone else's reactions to something we have reacted to and make those reactions the same as ours is wrong every time, every single time.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
you've seen it in the AI community. You've seen it when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to, I mean, like there's just so much that goes on with people trying to like we said, exert this bulliness. I can't tell you how much I wish people would just. It's very much like you said, when you have a complaint with a company, you're going to probably go through that customer service. If I had a problem with Neil Gaiman, like maybe I felt like I was being propositioned by him inappropriately at a conference or something years ago, I probably would have called the guy up and said, "Hey, listen, I'm going through some therapy. I just want you to know, like, you pissed me off. Like, this was really hard." If he then again, like I said, did something to further like deny or whatever, and it continued to trigger me, I think I would do what I think I would do and follow the example of what I've seen many murder victim families do, and that is forgive and walk away. And that's maybe just me, but it's only because I care more about my personal peace and my family's peace than anything else in this world. So I guess the moral of the story here is as and I guess the theme of this whole thing is it worth getting your heart rate and your blood pressure up over this stuff? Like is the
Hmm.
RWA filing bankruptcy and restructuring their finances gonna cause does it cause you enough angst to get all worked up about it and to rant and rave about it, or is it worth maybe getting involved? I mean, if you want to see the
Hmm.
RWA continue, maybe get involved and see what you can do to help, or just leave. But
Hmm.
whatever your stance is, you make that decision for you and what's best for you. Like I said, you're the main character in your story. Do what's right for you, but what's right for you may not be right for me or for Troy or for my daughter or for anyone else who's involved in the world. And our focus may be completely different than yours. Perspective is a big thing.
Hmm.
That's why we read books, because we want to learn other people's perspectives and hopefully become more empathetic people. Um, and so hopefully you're becoming a more empathetic person and kind of opened to the idea of possibly growing and understanding that people are going to think differently than you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, I guess that's just the
Yeah.
moral of the story here. But
Yeah.
Neil Gaiman, I wish you the best. I hope that you can sort this out. Those women that are going through this as well, I hope they can figure this out as well. But in the meantime, the rest of us that don't have a dog in the fight, maybe keep your mouth shut and just see what happens. Um, and then make your decisions that are best for you and kind of just, I don't know, keep your opinions
Yeah.
to yourself.
Well, or
Or
the
just
other aspect
be
of it is
kind.
that it's okay to disagree. And
Yeah.
one of the philosophers there was this it's I can't even remember what his name is, but kind of a modern philosopher, and his thing was he's like came down and somebody's like, "What's one thing you would tell people? You could tell them how to improve their lives." And he said, "Try to be a little kinder to everyone."
I like it.
And when you break that down, you go, first of all, what did he say? He said, try. He didn't say you
Try.
have to be kinder to
Right.
everyone. He said,
Just try.
try.
Just try.
And then he said, kinder. He didn't say you have to be overly super kind to people that
Or
are just jerks. What he said was, be kinder. So maybe if you wanted to punch him in the face, don't. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I mean,
I
that's
reject
kinder.
that. I
That's
re-
kinder, you know?
I keep that locked away all the time, Troy. You'd be so proud of
Yeah.
me.
It's just, I mean, so try to be a little kinder to everyone. Well, what if we all followed that and just looked at the person next to us and said, "What can I do to just be a little bit kinder to them
Kinder.
today? Just a little bit." We're not talking about make sweeping life changes. It's not some conversion thing. I'm not trying to save you or anything, but I'm
Right.
just saying, hey, try to be a little kinder to those people around you. And unfortunately, in today's world, that is something that doesn't happen as often as it probably should. Now, I'm not saying, I mean, all that being said, I'm not discounting anyone's opinion or how you feel, but don't try to impose that feeling on someone else.
Right.
If a whole bunch of people make the same decision that you do, that's fine, whether they do it through peer pressure or whatever. But you being the one that's trying to pressure and bully them is inevitably and always wrong.
Wrong.
So
I agree.
anyway,
I agree. I mean,
uh,
I think you even posted something recently on your Facebook page about this, about it was religious. Had something to do
hmm
with like the Christian philosophy and how we need to be
hmm
a little more a little less focused on changing other
hmm
people's
and
way of life. Yeah.
it was surprising to me the number of people that disagreed with that. And then
Mm,
also surprising to me, the number of people who said, "Hey, you're absolutely right." It's really interesting to me when I say, "Hey, you should be kinder to people. You should be more considerate to people," and people will disagree with the reasons that they don't have to be to
right.
certain groups of people or
It's
to certain people. And I'm like,
justification.
"Hmm,
Weird.
that's really weird." In fact, like I'll just close with so a couple years ago, I did a social experiment. It was actually really fun because I have a lot of. So for those of you who don't know, I graduated from Christian school, went to Bible college for a while, and then that
Ended up
didn't
in a
work out
cult.
real. That didn't work out real well. That didn't
Yeah.
work out real well for me. Anyway, so I went a different path, and I studied
Right.
world religions, and I consider myself a very spiritual person, but not a very religious person. So
Right.
I'm not interested in your religion, and the reason is I feel like many religions have corrupted what the original principles, the original founders were founded upon. And they have taken that and taken it a step too far, and they've corrupted it. And you can feel however you want about religion and have your own religion, but it's not going to impact me. It's not going to impact my
Right.
life. But I did a social experiment because I have a lot of Christian friends and friends from other religions and things like that. So I posted an experiment. I put a post on my page that said, "I'm an atheist. Ask me anything."
Mm.
You know, you know how many people asked a question? There were like 300 and some comments. You know how many people asked a question?
Nobody.
Three.
3.
Three people asked questions.
Can
The
I
rest
ask,
of
do you
them
remember the questions?
No, I don't remember the questions.
I'm curious.
The rest of them made primarily negative statements, and then they started arguing with each other in the comments about
Mm,
whether atheism was viable or not. Not a single one asked a question because they didn't read
interesting.
the post. All they read was, "I'm an
I'm
atheist."
an
They said, "Oh,
atheist.
he's an atheist. We have to bring him back to be someone who believes in God," or whatever the case may be, right?
Have to
And
save
that
him.
was their, we have to save him, right? And so that was the interesting thing is you give somebody, and here's the thing, okay, you will never, almost never argue anybody into your position of
Oh,
belief.
that's true. That's true. That's true.
But if I go to that person when they're down and out and I've got some advice for them, but the first thing I do is I hug them and I say, "I love you. What can I do for you?" Their response is entirely different than if I say, "You know what? You're going down the wrong path and you should do this."
You know what you should do? Mhm.
That's a totally different response. And the reason is that's how we're designed as human beings. Is when we love and trust someone, then we follow their advice.
Right.
So you're never in that post, you're never going to argue me out of being an atheist, which I'm not, by the way, but it was a fun experiment. But
That is a
you're
fun
never going to
experiment.
argue me. You're never going to argue me out of being an atheist. You might love me out of being an atheist.
You know what's interesting?
That's different.
I love Ricky Gervais. I don't agree with the guy all the time. The guy, he is a little bit on the explosive end of things for me. And I think he likes to inflame people's yeah, I think it's his thing.
He does.
He gets off on it, and I kind of like it about him, but at the same time I could see if he ever did it to me, I think I would be immediately pissed off. But I think that he would get off on that. I actually I have a lot of respect for the guy because he literally has the perspective of, this is who I am. I'm not trying to I'm not asking for permission. I'm not asking for I'm not apologizing for who I am. It's just it's who I am. And it's what I think and what I say. And what I think and what I say actually makes me money. So I don't care what people who oppose me say, because they're not paying my salary. The ones that over here are. So I don't care what you have to say. And I love that about him. I love that about him. I love the courage that it takes for him to do that. But
Mhm.
it's like you said, his atheism is a hot topic. You know, people, they just love to argue with him about his atheism, and it's I always laugh. I'm always like, why are that's who he is. That's how he's comfortable thinking. That's his logic. Like, why are, you know, when religion is such a core part of who people are, you're never going to argue that out of them. Like you said, you're never going to
Hmm.
convince
You're
them to
not.
change. I have a friend right now that their son or brother, their brother is serving an LDS mission in Ireland. Ireland. You're Mormon in Ireland. Everybody, the
Mm.
Irish people are very Catholic. Um, and by the way, that's thousands of years old. Like that's ingrained in their culture. Just so we're clear. So I find it hilarious because they're like, yeah, he's not getting much traction there in Ireland. No kidding. Go figure. I wonder why. Well, the reason is because you're messing with people's identities. Like
Hmm.
this is ingrained in their culture, their family, their life, their livelihood, the way they think, the way they live. And you're going to try to come in there with a 250-year-old religion and say, "Hey, by the way, this is not the right way to think. You need to think this way." That's not the way that's going to work. And and honestly, the best way to go about that is just to say, "Hey, you and I have a lot in common. We should be friends." And if
Hmm.
more of us did that, I think we would you're going to find that we're going to be in a much happier, healthier relationship with the world around us, and you're going to be able to coexist
Hmm.
in a much better, successful way.
Well, and part of that is because it doesn't matter if you win people over.
It doesn't matter. What is it? Who
It doesn't
cares?
matter.
Who
Yeah,
cares?
it doesn't make any difference.
We all end up dust somewhere. And oh my gosh, there's this really cute old man. Oh my gosh, I got to find out what his name is. He's so cute. He talks like he's usually in some bog or the Everglades somewhere in Florida. He's showing up in my feed lately, and he talks like somebody who's like full on, like he sounds very Cajun, but he's not. But he's so cute. And he said something the other day. He says he was looking at a picture of New York back in like the early days, like carriage days, and everybody was bustling around and dressed to the nines and like running around and everything. And he thought to himself, all those people are dead. All those people are gone. Um, and but if you looked at a picture of New York today, he's like, I'm on earth with those people. And he said something that was pretty impactful. He said, it doesn't matter about those people that lived all those years ago. He goes, because they're not the people that I'm sharing the earth with right now. This is my crew. And these are
Hmm.
the people that I'm sharing this life with. And so it's kind of cool to think that this is my crew. These are the people. So maybe I should try to get along with these people because these people are the
Hmm.
ones that I'm sharing my lifetime with. And I think that's kind of like a really cool way to think about it. Like the guy driving
Hmm.
next to you, yeah, he cut you off and now he's probably a jerk. Maybe he's having a bad day and maybe his mom just got diagnosed with cancer and he's on his way to the hospital. You don't know. You don't know.
Hmm.
But he's on the earth at this time with you. This is his time here with you. He's your crew. He's this is our crew, guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that maybe it's just better for you to try to, I don't know, put the lens on that it's okay that you disagree. It's okay that you're not the same. In fact, that's kind of what I think. If you don't believe in God, fine, but that's what, in my opinion, that's what God intended. I mean, if we were all the same, what a boring life this would be.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love that Troy and I have differences, and the differences actually teach me more than if we were the same.
Hmm.
Um,
For sure.
so yeah, I guess that's just the theme of today. So go out there and be different, but share your
Yeah.
opinion. Share your opinion enough so that we can all become empathetic people, but don't be mean about it. And like Troy said, don't try to force your opinion or force your way of thinking on other people. Just give them the opportunity to kind of like maybe open their eyes a little bit wider and see that maybe your way of thinking is new and different and could maybe influence them to become more empathetic. And I think that that would probably result in a much happier society. um yeah. And if you have a
Yeah.
foot fetish, keep that shit in your bedroom, man. Gosh, I don't want to
Oh
see your
man.
nasty feet. Um, gosh, that's bedroom talk. Um, but anyway, so other than that, I think that's a good way to end today's talk. Troy, thank you so
Yep.
much for sharing the news with me. And then we'll have another rant later. But
Yep.
yeah, for those of you who don't know, Plottr is spelled Plottr. You guys need to check them out. I can't tell you how much I'm falling in love with this company. I'm becoming one of their, I'm actually in a certification program right now being taught by Troy. Thank you very much, Troy, about, being a certified editor for Plottr, but Plottr is an amazing tool. They're not sponsoring us, Cameron. That would be awesome. They're not, but the Plottr is an amazing tool for authors who want to learn how to improve their craft. And just really quick rant about that, you guys. Honestly, today's world, we like Troy said, we're entering the golden age of publishing. And about 10-15 years ago, you could throw a dart at the wall and make some money, and it wouldn't matter if your book was great or not. But that's not the case anymore. And so if you want your book to have an impact and make a dent in somebody's life, please work on it. Don't just throw a dart at the wall and expect it to stick. Because if you don't have the pointy end pointed at the target, it's probably going to bounce off and nothing's going to happen with it. So there are people out there that can help you work on your craft, work on your book. There are editors out there that are, maybe not me, but maybe other editors out there that are better for you, that will help you create a great story, and whatever that may be. And so please utilize the professionals out there that can help you make your book better. You can find me at editsbystacey.com. If I'm not your editor, I probably know one that is, because I love meeting other people in my industry that do the same thing and have the same philosophy I do. Pro authors, man, go fight win.
Yep.
Troy, you can find at troylambertwrites.com, and also you can find him in the Plottr community. And yeah, you guys go fight win. Let's just be better humans, please.
Yeah.